Hello and welcome on in. Today we're going to be talking about reviews and specifically answering the question, is your review the best time to ask for a raise? Now, for those of you that haven't met me, my name is Guirovich. I am the founder of My Promotion Plan, a company that champions women to advance in their careers. I have a big mission to help 1 million women earn promotions and raises by 2030. If you are looking to advance in your career, you've been working hard, you're feeling kind of stuck, then I want to invite you to schedule a career clarity call. We have accelerated career clarity calls where we can get on the phone one-on-one and we can talk about what's happening in your career. But today, let's talk about your review. And is this really the right time to ask for a raise? Well, the short answer is it really depends. Now, for some of you, it's going to be the perfect time, a great time to ask for a raise. And for others, it's going to be the wrong time to ask. When we think of raises and reviews, especially reviews, the thing that most often people think about is they kind of tie the review with the raise. But whenever we think about reviews, we have to understand that there is a performance review and sometimes there's a compensation review. So we need to really start to figure out, like maybe in your head, a lot of times I know I used to do this. I used to think, oh, review time, raise time. But that's not how all companies work. So you really want to understand, how does your company work? Some companies actually purposefully don't tie the compensation increases to the reviews. Now, this can work in your favor or against your favor, but today I want to talk to you about how you can ask and when you should ask in your review. And if it's not time during the review, what you can do instead. So we will talk about these things. So let's talk about the things first that would make it the wrong time. One of the reasons why it can be the wrong time for you to ask is because sometimes reviews and raises aren't given in this systematic manner. So say that you just recently got a raise. You could have gotten a raise 3 months ago. You could have got a raise 6 months ago. And maybe somebody gave you a raise whenever it wasn't review time. In this time, it might not have been enough time since your last raise for them really to be considering you for another substantial raise. So you always want to consider, what has that length of time been since your last review? Now, we'll talk about the flip side of that in a minute. Now, the second thing to understand is it's also the wrong time when your performance review is generic. So performance reviews are not created equally. Some of them actually paint a really good picture about how you've added value to the company, where your strengths really are, and it's more of an objective outlook on how you have performed in your role. And if that's the case, it would make it a great time. But unfortunately, most reviews are actually subjective, meaning your manager or group of managers is just subjectively putting down some information. And they're doing that most often based on their memory. I know from experience, most managers are actually not tracking your success. And unfortunately, what happens is most people think they can, but they can't think and remember more than 30 days previously. So that's what the studies show. If it's been more than 30 days, then your manager is likely to have forgotten about that thing that you've done. So performance reviews most often indicate what your recent performance has been like, but it's very subjective. And even if you get a good review, this might not be the best time because you're not totally presenting all of your value within the review. Okay, another wrong time. Well, the other wrong time is if you are rated poorly, and that's even if you disagree. So maybe you go into your meeting and, unfortunately, managers struggle with this. They struggle with giving feedback. They struggle with being proactive. They struggle with really telling their employees the honest truth. A lot of them struggle with this. They would rather not say anything at all. They just are uncomfortable with it. And so when it comes time for reviews, there could be some surprises on your review, in which case you are rated poorly. And if that happens to you, then this would definitely not be the right time to ask for an increase. Now, this might even be a time where you're disagreeing with what they said, and now you're trying to have a whole nother conversation because you're just like, am I just hanging on for dear life here? Because you are completely blindsided by what the review said. And so when you tie your review to your compensation, you put yourself at risk for this. Another thing that makes it the wrong time to ask is when you want significantly more than the standard raise. So many of you watching are not just looking to go in and get the standard 2 or 3% raise that most companies give. You really want to get a substantial raise. That's what I teach my clients to do. My clients get anywhere between 10 and 50% increases. And it's all because they know how to frame their value. And we have more videos on that, so we will link those below in the description so you can check those out. But the key here is that if you want more than your standard, then your review likely isn't going to be the best time to ask. It doesn't mean that you can't, but here's the thing that you have to consider. There's two things. One is, when are budgets done? Because when budgets are done already ahead of reviews, perhaps they haven't budgeted for you to be given this bigger raise. And so when you wait for your review to ask for this, you actually put yourself at a disadvantage because the budgets have already been set. They've already allocated the dollars and they know where they're going. So if you're wanting more of those dollars, then you really want to understand when the budgets are set and how they're set. The second thing is, when reviews are happening, if compensation is tied to them, it gets really tricky, whether it is tied or it isn't tied, because this is a time where managers feel a lot of pressure. And this is a lot of times why they push reviews off, either A, because they don't like giving that negative feedback, or B, they have a hard time telling you you're not going to get a raise. And a lot of managers also tie in their head, like, when review time comes, people are going to be asking me for an increase in compensation. So they could actually have their defense mechanisms up because maybe their manager already told them, we're not giving raises, we're not doing this. And so now they have already been programmed to shut you down. And so that's just something you want to consider. Now, the third reason that makes it tricky to ask for a raise during your review, whenever you want significantly more than the standard, is the fact that you don't necessarily get to control who's in your room. And so whenever you're having this review meeting, it's really important that the right people are seeing your value and really understanding your ideas and what you add to the company. When you are looking to earn more, it's not just about your past performance and what your future desires are. You actually want to present your future value. And that's what I was talking about before, and how you frame your value, how you frame that future value. So that video is in the description below, so you can check it out. But you want to check that out because if you want to increase that, then you want to invite the decision makers into your meeting where you actually present a strategic plan for your next role, right? That could be a full promotion, that could be a micro promotion, but the key is that you are directing this. And when you direct it, you want to have the right people in the room. And when you have a review, you can't always do that. Okay, so let's talk about what can make it a great time. Because I know some of you are still thinking like, hey, Mary, this is all great, and I really think the review is the right time. So here's when it's really a great time. If raises are awarded at reviews, then it's a great time, especially if you've had a great review. So if that's common, and you've had a great review, then you definitely want to ask for it. So here's what you need to know. There have been instances where people get great review after great review, and they still don't get compensation increases. So you need to be prepared when you go in there. You need to know that you have prepared for this, that you know your market value, that you know what your long-term goals are within your career. You want to ensure that you're ready to frame that future value, really have these conversations about where you want to take your career and what you want to do and how much you really want to increase. And you want to just make sure that you're asking. So if you know that, hey, compensation is supposed to happen at the time of review, then when your review is over, you just need to say, I'd like to talk about how I can continue to advance within the organization, help the organization grow, and how I can increase my compensation. And that's it. You just want to ask that simple question. And when you ask that question, now you're going to be entering into that part of the conversation. And so that's outside of the review. So another thing that could make it a great time to ask during your review is actually when the budgets are done after the reviews. So maybe reviews happen and then the next yearly budget is coming right up. In that case, you may have to wait a little bit to get another increase, but you won't have to wait an entire another year. And a lot of budgets are arbitrary and flexible, so it doesn't make it necessarily the wrong time to ask. But in companies where budgets are a huge thing, if the budgets were already done, wrong time. Budgets are getting ready to come up to be done, that would make it the right time. All right, what else makes it a great time? Well, if there really isn't a standard way that raises are awarded at your workplace, if there's no standard for advancing, if there's no standard for increasing your compensation, then really you have to make your own way and you have to make your own path. Now, here's what I can tell you. If you do it associated with your review, you will face what we talked about earlier, which is all that competition with other people asking. And you're also putting yourself in a situation where you might not get the performance review that you were truly expecting. And so what I really recommend is that you don't ask during your review whether your company awards these or doesn't award these. I really like people to create this as their own personal advancement meeting. I think it's the best thing that you can do because you can actually prepare your own paperwork. You can actually present and frame your own value, your own future value, and you can make sure that you have done your research. And now you're going to stand out because you're not just one person that scored high in this whole group of the company that have just been given reviews. Now you're someone that has not only scored high on your reviews in the past, but you're actually coming to the company, you're adding value, and you're setting yourself up for success. So that's my take on how and when and if you should ask for a raise during. Best of luck. I'd love for you to comment below. Let me know what you found helpful. If there's anything that you would add, just go ahead and pop it below. If you are looking to advance in your career, then I just want to invite you to download. We have a wonderful guide. It's the Boost Your Confidence and Get That Promotion Guide. So if you're like, man, this sounds so good, I need to figure out how I can go in there with confidence and ask for what I'm worth, then the link will be in the description below. Feel free to click that, check it out, free download for you so you can get started on your next step of the career. Be sure to like this video and go ahead and hit that notification and subscribe button. That way you will get notified when we have new videos weekly. Until I see you again, remember, you're only one plan away from your next promotion.